Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Patty Giarrusso, and this is Let's Talk Pets on Society Bites Radio. Today, we welcome back Kathy Pobloskie from Lost Dogs of America. And Check the Chip Day is August 15th. And what is Check the Chip Day? If I could say it, it means that if your pet is microchipped, you need to get it checked and you need to make sure that it's properly registered and everything's up to date. And we're going to talk about why that's so important. Microchips are really only as good as what is on them and what could be looked up if your pet becomes lost. So Kathy is going to talk with us about that today, and she's the co-founder of Lost Dogs of America and the director and founder of Lost Dogs of Wisconsin, if you're not familiar with her. She's with us every month talking about different topics relating to lost pets and how we keep our pets safe. So welcome to the show, Kathy.
Hi, Patty. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's
So
good.
you're joining us today while on vacation and you've taken some time out and we appreciate that. So,
No problem. No,
yeah.
I enjoy it. Yeah, we're camping in northern Wisconsin, and we didn't have we had very poor service in the campground, but here in town it's a little bit better. So it was a
Oh,
short
that's
little
good.
drive to town.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So, and it's such an important topic. I think it's just one of the things that to me personally has been such an eye opener in this whole lost and found pet, uh, you know, world that we live in. Because probably at least 5 years ago now, we started doing these microchip scanning events where we will go to some sort of pet-friendly event in a community in Wisconsin, maybe a pet walk or a pet expo sort of thing where people can bring their pets. And then we offer to scan their pets' microchips for free. And boy, I mean, it's just amazing to me every time how few people have actually ever even thought about getting their pet microchip scanned, and then checking to make sure that everything is up to date.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's people put them, get either acquire a microchip pet and assume that everything has been done for them, or they take their pet to the vet and have it microchipped and don't, and then give it not another thought,
Yeah.
and very, very few people, if you think of the average life of a pet being about 15 years, it's highly unlikely that somebody is going to be in the same location with the same phone number for all of those 15 years.
Right.
Um, and people move or change their phone number or drop their landline and never remember to change that information.
I know. I would say where we are here in Florida, the two counties, the found pets that we've scanned, I want to say that the percentage of unregistered or outdated information is as high as 80%.
Wow.
It is terrible. Absolutely terrible. And that's
Wow.
why I just thought it was so important that we talk about this because like you just said, people don't give it a second thought until it's too late.
Yes. Yes. And that's a really scary thought that many uh, pets are either unregistered or out of date. And what we've even seen happening is some shelters are seeing such a low uh, cost benefit ratio of with microchipping adoptables that they are talking about ceasing to do it. And I've heard of a couple shelters that actually have ceased to do it.
Mm,
So, like in Illinois, it is a law that every animal that is adopted out of a shelter or rescue has to have a microchip. Wisconsin, we do not have that law. So a shelter can choose whether they want to microchip the animals they adopt out or not. And some are simply saying it's not worth it. They do it and then they don't see any benefit in the return to owner rates. You theoretically those should go up in a community if
hmm
every animal they adopt out into that community is microchipped. But if the information associated with the microchip isn't correct and the animal is not going back home after it ends up in a shelter, then why should they spend the extra money to do it? Is basically what they're saying.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
I think there's some problems that somehow I don't know how we can address them other than constantly talking about it. But like when a pet is adopted out, whether it's from a shelter or a rescue or wherever, if it's microchipped, there's got to be some more education involved in that adoption process,
Yes.
for the owner to know what to do. I think that's one problem.
Yeah.
And then I think another problem might be, now some vets do a scan on their checkups. I think every single vet in the whole United States should make
Yeah.
it just a part of every checkup. That they
I
should
I
scan.
agree.
Here's your number. Please check it. I'll tell you how to check it. Go on AHA and check it. I just think that should be an important part of every single checkup.
I absolutely agree. And um, and my vet doesn't. He doesn't. I mean, they just assume that every person that brings in a new pet, which is a new client for them, is the rightful owner of that dog.
Hmm.
And there could be dogs that somebody has found and decided to keep, and then take them into the vet, and the dog may have a microchip, and that the dog may belong to somebody else, or the cat. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's very, very frustrating. And what I've heard on that end is that vets do not, some of them are struggling anyway for new clients, and they do not want to be the police. They do not want to be the one to have to say, oh, maybe this dog doesn't belong to you, or maybe,
Hmm.
you should be looking for the rightful owner. And so they just, let that slide by. But I agree with you. I would like to see that it just becomes common practice for them to do it every year, and even for the dogs that are, like, rightfully owned by the person. It's just a really good thing to do, just to make sure that the microchip hasn't moved in the dog's body or become deactivated. Even though that's not that common, it can happen. You know, just to give the owner peace of mind that the microchip is working, and then they can go home and check to make sure that nothing has changed in the information.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and
Because what
sometimes
what
there's
are
a
the oh, go ahead, sorry.
oh no, I was going to say, it's because sometimes, I mean, if there's a second contact on that microchip information, so maybe it's not your information that's changed, but if you were on vacation when your pet goes missing, and the second contact information is incorrect, maybe you've put your daughter-in-law or something on as the second contact, but she's moved or changed her phone number, in the last
Hmm.
few years.
Hmm.
Then again, now you've created a dead end, and so it's just really something that should be thought of, just like we do so many other health checks and wellness checks on ourselves and our pets. It just should be something
Hmm.
that should become standard practice.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
The second contacting, I never even, I'm always thinking, make sure your number, make sure your information, but you're right.
yeah,
It's the secondary
yeah,
contact too, because I have run into that the secondary contact information is absolutely no good, but I don't
mhm,
preach to make sure that they do
yeah,
that. So
yeah,
yeah, the check the chip day is really, really important to just bring awareness to, I mean, we both know that every single day we're constantly talking about microchips and how important they are as a tool, to keep our pets safe, but to try to get people to remember. And I think, a lot of people don't want to pay. They don't want to
right.
pay to register it. But now, if they just need to update, I don't think there's a fee, right?
It depends. It depends on the brand. So yes, some brands do charge just for an
Okay.
update. Some don't. And
Mm,
sometimes it depends on the kind of the package that was purchased at the very beginning.
mm,
When they got the microchip, or when the shelter or perhaps the breeder bought the microchip, they bought a certain package. So
mm-hmm,
some microchips have like a 1 year plan, some have a lifetime plan. Now that never means, and can be very confusing, that doesn't mean that the microchip isn't going to work after 1 year. Microchips cannot be turned on and off, but it does mean that you bought a plan that said that you could have unlimited updates in that 1 year, and after that 1 year, you're going to have to pay to have it
mm-hmm,
updated. The microchip will always read.
mm-hmm.
So, if you put a microchip in and you haven't moved or haven't changed anything, it should be fine. It shouldn't cost you anymore. But if you have a microchip where there is a fee to update it, it drives me a little bit crazy too that there's sometimes such a large fee to change a telephone number. But I really do believe it's worth it.
Right, because if you consider the fact that the dog gets out and they can't read it, they can't get a hold of you, so it goes to the shelter, and then how much does it cost you? It could be $60 for one day, or it could be a couple $100, depending on the amount of fees that get tacked on. So, I mean, spending anywhere from $9.99 to $19.99 or $24.99 or something is a lot less money than is a lot less money, and everyone likes to say, oh, but my pet will never run away. It never goes outside without me. But we both know how often accidents happen,
Happen.
So,
The thing, and I don't usually like to use shock value when I'm talking to people, but one thing that I've noticed that when we're doing these events, and sometimes people walk up and they're kind of like, oh yeah, I'll let you check my chip, but I don't really think it's that important or whatever. And then when I say to them, but do you realize that in Wisconsin, if your information is not up to date, on the 5th day, if they haven't been able to get a hold of you in those first 4 days, your dog could be adopted out to somebody else or put down. It makes their eyes pop open wide when they realize how important that is. And once their dog is adopted out to somebody else, there is really no recourse in most states, because the shelter has kind of followed the law, and if they couldn't reach you, it's not their fault. So it's really the owner's responsibility to make sure everything with that microchip is correct.
Yeah, I know. And it when you think of the cost, it's so much, it makes so much sense. But I know that, oh, it's just one more thing, it's just one more thing. And I actually was talking today to AKC Reunite, and I was trying to think, okay, what about if we offered to register for them, but then we fall into that, well, then if it's a Avid chip and it's under AKC and somebody scans it and they don't use the AHA, that's going to be our next show that we're talking about. Yeah, but that presents an issue, and that's another separate whole other conversation that we're going to have next week. That that's an important consideration. But is it better to at least have it registered that way, or just not registered because you don't want to pay it? It's I get some different theories on that, but I still think it's better to be registered someplace. We do recommend that you register and stay registered with the chip company that your chip is from. So, for instance, 24 Pet Watch, stay with 24 Pet Watch. Home Again, stay with Home Again. But if you can't, or if you won't pay, there are other options.
There are actually other options. Yes.
So why don't you talk about the steps involved? How would somebody, okay, check the chip day, August 15th. What do I do? How do I do it if there's not any event? What do I do?
So I would take my my dog or my cat to I'd probably phone first to make sure that it's okay, but most vets or shelters should offer to do it for free, especially your own vet that you're a client of. And take them in, and it just should take a couple of seconds for them to scan your pet and then write down the number for you. And then you're going to take that number home and you're going to plug it into the AHA, which is the American Animal Hospital Association lookup tool. It's called the